I stared at the email, my morning coffee going cold on my desk. 6 months of work, countless presentations, and a meticulously crafted proposal, all stolen by my own brother. After careful consideration, the message read, Quantum Technologies has decided to award our digital transformation contract to Asher Solutions. We appreciate Innovation Dynamics' excellent proposal but have chosen to go in a different direction. My hands shook with rage as I read the attachment detailing how my brother's company would handle the $200 million project. A project that used my strategies, my innovations, my ideas, copied almost word for word from confidential documents he'd accessed during our family dinners. I'm Olivia Asher, founder of Innovation Dynamics, and this is how my brother's betrayal led to his biggest business lesson. The worst part wasn't losing the contract. It was the message that followed. Hey sis, heard the news? Tough break, but that's business, survival of the fittest. Maybe stick to smaller projects until you can compete with the big boys. Daniel. My older brother who'd always seen me as the little sister playing entrepreneur, while he ran our father's company, Asher Solutions. The same brother who'd spent the last year pumping me for information about my new digital transformation strategy under the guise of family concern. How's work going, Liv? Any interesting projects? He'd ask at Sunday dinners, topping up my wine glass while I enthusiastically shared my latest innovations. I've been so eager to prove myself, to show my family that leaving the family business wasn't a mistake. Now I realized every conversation had been reconnaissance. My phone buzzed, my father calling. I let it go to voicemail. I already knew what he'd say. This is why you should have stayed with Asher Solutions. Daniel understands business. You're too naive. I closed my eyes, remembering the day I left Asher Solutions 3 years ago. I presented my ideas for revolutionizing digital transformation services, only to be patted on the head and told to focus on smaller projects better suited to your experience level. So I'd started Innovation Dynamics, and spent 3 years developing the exact strategies that Daniel had just stolen. My assistant, Mark, appeared at my door. Olivia? The team's waiting for the morning meeting. Should I tell them about Quantum? I stood up, straightening my jacket. No, I'll tell them myself. Walking into our conference room, I saw the hope on my team's faces. They'd worked countless hours on the Quantum proposal, believing in my vision. Now I had to tell them we'd lost to my brother's corporate espionage. The Quantum contract, I started, my voice steady, has been awarded to Asher Solutions. The room erupted in protests. But they stole our proposal. Those were our strategies. Your brother just copied everything. I held up my hand for silence. Yes, Daniel stole our work. Yes, it's unfair. But right now, I need everyone to focus on our other projects while I handle this family matter. As my team filed out, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Benjamin Chen, CEO of Quantum Technologies. Received your brother's signed contract. The official announcement goes out tomorrow. Looking forward to working with Asher Solutions. I smiled, thinking of the document sitting in my safe, the one that would turn Daniel's triumph into his biggest humiliation. Because there was something my brother didn't know, something no one knew except my lawyers and a select group of board members. I opened my laptop and clicked through to a secure folder. Inside was proof of every family dinner conversation, every stolen strategy, every confidential document Daniel had accessed. But more importantly, it contained evidence of something that would shake Asher Solutions to its core. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my inside source at Quantum. Everything proceeding as planned. Contract signing ceremony set for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Full media coverage. Perfect. Daniel always did love an audience for his victories. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I rarely used. Rebecca. Yes, make sure all the board members are present for tomorrow's ceremony. Tell them they won't want to miss this. My father had always said I was too naive for business. Daniel had always treated me like a child playing at entrepreneurship. Tomorrow they both learned exactly who they'd been underestimating. I opened my desk drawer and took out an elegant envelope, my invitation to tomorrow's contract signing ceremony. Daniel had sent it with a handwritten note. Come see how real business is done, little sister. I tucked the invitation into my bag, smiling as I thought about the surprise I had planned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back immediately. Sometimes it's letting your opponent think they've won. Right before you show them who's really been in control all along. My phone lit up with another text from Daniel. Hey sis, you're still coming tomorrow, right? Would hate for you to miss this career-defining moment. For me, anyway. I typed back a simple response. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Let him gloat. Let him think he'd won. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and with it, a lesson in what happens when you underestimate the little sister. Mark appeared at my door again. Everything's ready for tomorrow. Should I warn the team about what's coming? I shook my head, looking at the framed photo on my wall. Me at 18, standing next to Daniel at his college graduation. Back when I still believed in family loyalty. No, I said. Let them be surprised like everyone else. Just make sure the cameras are rolling when Daniel signs that contract. Because tomorrow my brother would learn that sometimes the biggest threat isn't your competition. Sometimes it's the sister you never took seriously. The signing ceremony was everything Daniel loved. Cameras, reporters, executive suits, and most importantly, an audience for his triumph. Quantum Technologies headquarters buzzed with anticipation as New York's business elite gathered to witness the $200 million deal. I sat quietly in the back row, watching my brother work the room. He'd always been good at this part, the showmanship, the networking, the carefully practiced humility that fooled everyone except those who really knew him. Olivia, my father's voice came from behind me. I'm surprised you came. This must be difficult for you. I turned, smiling pleasantly. Not at all, Dad. I wouldn't miss this for anything. He frowned, probably expecting tears or bitterness. Well, try to be professional about it. This is Daniel's moment. Oh, I know exactly whose moment this is. Before he could respond, Benjamin Chen, Quantum CEO, called the room to order. Daniel took his place at the signing table, straightening his custom-made suit. Today marks a historic partnership, Chen began. Quantum Technologies and Azure Solutions are joining forces to revolutionize digital transformation services. I tuned out the standard corporate speech, focusing instead on the contract sitting on the table. The contract that would never be signed, at least not by Daniel. However, Chen continued, before we proceed with the signing, there's an important corporate governance matter to address. Daniel's smile flickered slightly. This wasn't in the script. As per Section 7.3 of the contract, Chen read, any unauthorized use of proprietary strategies or intellectual property must be disclosed before signing. Would anyone like to make such a disclosure? The room fell silent. Daniel's face remained confident, but I saw his hand twitch, his tell when he was nervous. I stood up. Actually, I would. Every head turned. Daniel's smile became fixed, dangerous. Olivia, he warned, don't embarrass yourself. I walked to the front of the room, pulling out a USB drive. This contains proof the Azure Solutions proposal was copied directly from Innovation Dynamics confidential documents. Documents that Daniel Asher accessed during family gatherings and private meetings. These are serious accusations, Chen said, though his tone suggested he wasn't surprised. They're also irrelevant, Daniel cut in smoothly. Azure Solutions owns all rights to these strategies. After all, Innovation Dynamics is just a small startup. Actually, I interrupted, Innovation Dynamics is a subsidiary of Phoenix Global Ventures, a fact that became official 3 months ago. Now Daniel's smile did fade. Everyone in the room knew Phoenix Global Ventures, one of the largest technology investment firms in the world. And Phoenix Global, I continued, clicking to display documents on the presentation screen, has owned controlling interests in Azure Solutions for the past year. Through a series of quiet acquisitions and proxy votes, the room erupted in whispers. My father stood up, his face pale. That's impossible. I would know if someone had bought controlling interest in my company. Would you? I asked quietly. The same way you knew your son was stealing intellectual property. The same way you knew your daughter was building something valuable? I turned to Daniel, whose arrogance had finally cracked. Want to know the best part, brother? Those strategies you stole, I leaked them to you. Old versions, incomplete data, just enough to make you think you'd outsmarted me. You're lying, he whispered. I clicked again, displaying more documents. Every family dinner was recorded. Every confidential document you accessed was tracked. I knew you'd try to steal my work. You've been doing it since we were kids. So I gave you exactly what I wanted you to take. Chen stepped forward. As the CEO of Quantum Technologies, I have to say this is unprecedented. It gets better, I smiled. As the majority shareholder of Asher Solutions through Phoenix Global, I'm announcing some immediate management changes. Daniel Asher is hereby removed as CEO, effective immediately. The room exploded in chaos. Daniel lunged forward, but security stepped between us. "You can't do this," he shouted. "Dad, tell her she can't do this." Our father stood frozen, looking between us like he was seeing us clearly for the first time. "Actually," I said calmly, "I can and I have." The board voted this morning, unanimously. I turned to the gathered executives and reporters. Asher Solutions and Innovation Dynamics will be merging under the Phoenix Global umbrella. The combined company will be handling Quantum's digital transformation project, using the real strategies, not the stolen versions. "This is a trick," Daniel sputtered. "You're just what?" I cut him off. "Just your little sister. Just a naive entrepreneur. That's exactly what I wanted you to think. You were so busy underestimating me that you never noticed me building something bigger than you could imagine." I signed the real contract with a flourish, then held out the pen to Chen. "Shall we make this official?" As Chen signed, cameras flashed. Tomorrow's business headlines were writing themselves. Tech Empress outmaneuvers brother in corporate takeover. "Security will escort you out," I told Daniel. "Human resources will contact you about your severance package, though given the intellectual property theft, there might not be one." "Olivia," my father stepped forward. "This isn't how family—" "No," I cut him off. "This is exactly how you taught us business works." Daniel just learned that lesson the hard way. Later that evening, I sat in my new office, the CEO's office at Asher Solutions. My phone had been buzzing nonstop with messages from family members and business associates. My assistant brought in a bottle of champagne. "Quite a show today. Was it worth waiting all this time?" I looked at the photos being taken down from the office walls. Pictures of Daniel and my father, generations of Asher men running the company. Tomorrow my photo would hang here instead. The look on his face when he realized his little sister now owned his company. I smiled. Absolutely priceless. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Daniel. "You've destroyed this family." I thought about all the times he'd stolen my ideas, dismissed my achievements, treated me like a child playing at business. "No," I typed back. "I just showed you what happens when you underestimate the wrong person." I raised my champagne glass in a silent toast. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning. It's making sure they understand exactly how thoroughly they lost. And sometimes the little sister turns out to be the biggest threat of all.
The rainy day was drawing to a close as Erica, a young female cab driver, drove to her last order. She was already tired, her back itched, and her eyes hurt from the constant strain, but she wasn't discouraged because her earnings for the day were decent. Despite this, she still felt nervous, having dealt with a variety of passengers throughout the day, including 3 late passengers to the train station, drunken men from the bar who sang songs in the cab, mothers with small children, and teenagers in love. Now, Erica was on her way to pick up an elderly woman to take her to a specified address. When she arrived at the location, she saw an old, shabby house in front of her. Though it was once a beautiful building, the paint had peeled off, and the shutters on the windows were skewed and rusted. The area around the house was overgrown with weeds and wild grapes, indicating that no one had taken care of it for a long time. As time passed, no one came out of the house. Erica began to worry. No one would pay for a false call, and a lot of gasoline had been spent to get to the outskirts of the city. She honked a couple of times and began to drum nervously on the steering wheel with her fingers. Finally, the door creaked open, and an old woman stepped out onto the threshold. She was gaunt and wrinkled, looking no less than 80 years old. Dressed poorly in an old shabby coat out of season and a thin shawl, the elderly woman dragged behind her a rather bulky suitcase. Erica immediately jumped out of the cab and helped the woman load the suitcase into the trunk. "I'm so embarrassed in front of you," the elderly woman apologized. "Please forgive me for making you wait. I was working and didn't keep track of the time." Erica smiled encouragingly. "It's nothing, don't worry. Everything is all right. Sit down, buckle up, and let's go. I'll lay out the route on the navigator to avoid the traffic jams so it will be faster." Suddenly, the old lady asked, "Sweetheart, can I ask you to go through the city center? I've been a recluse for many years and my health doesn't allow me to go far from home. I'd like to see what our city has become. I'll pay extra if you need it. By the way, my name is Mrs. Mans, and yours?" "I'm Erica," the girl replied. "Nice to meet you. No problem, as you say, I'll take you through the center at a leisurely pace. That's not difficult for me." So they started on their way. Mrs. Mans admired the beauty outside and reminisced about the past. "Oh, look at the modern buildings," she exclaimed. "There used to be a dress shop here, I remember, and now they have built a restaurant. What is this huge miracle with flashing lights like a Christmas tree? How many floors are there? I can't even count. This is a new shopping center where you can buy anything you want. There is a movie theater, a cafe, and many children's attractions," Erica informed her. The elderly woman continued to recall, "When we were young, my husband and I liked to take evening walks along these streets through this park. Young people always gathered near the main square and made dates with each other. There was also a summer dance floor there. Ah, those were the days. I worked in the court as a secretary, and Bill was a teacher. He taught math at school. My husband's hands were golden. He built our house himself, and we did everything together. We didn't have children for a long time. God didn't give them to us. Then Cindy was born. How happy we were, words can't describe. I never imagined I would be alone in my old age." The elderly lady sighed, and Erica cautiously asked, "So what about your daughter? Where is she now?" Mrs. Mans wiped away a tear and said, "Oh, it's a long story, Erica. She had an unhappy love affair and disappeared. She renounced us and quarreled with her father. We never saw each other again. Oh my goodness, look at that beautiful church." Saying this, the elderly woman turned to Erica and asked, "And you, my dear, how did you get into such a difficult profession? It doesn't seem to be a woman's business." "It's the first time I've seen a woman behind the wheel, to be honest," Mrs. Mans said. Erica waved her hand dismissively. "Well, Mrs. Mans, life happens that way. I was left without parents. My mom died when I was 8, and I grew up in an orphanage. When I fell in love and got pregnant, Gregor turned out to be a scoundrel. He left me as soon as he found out, afraid of taking responsibility. So I was left pregnant and alone. As for cars, I've loved them since I was a kid, so I learned to drive. I enjoy it, and it pays well." Mrs. Mans shook her head sympathetically. "So you're not just a female taxi driver but also a pregnant taxi driver. Poor you, my sorrowful one. It will be difficult to take care of a newborn alone with no one to help you." Erica smirked. "I'm used to it. I'll manage. I'll save up money for the baby and childbirth. Besides, my profession will always provide for me." As they arrived at their destination, a grey public building with a high fence, Erica read the name on the gate and gasped. It was a nursing home. She felt unbearably sorry for the poor elderly lady who was forced by loneliness and illness to move there. Erica turned off the car and helped Mrs. Mans out, then took out her suitcase and brought it to the gate. The elderly woman lowered her head and said, "All right, Erica, this is my final stop. I'm here forever. The only good thing is that I won't be here long because I'm so sick. Goodbye, my dear. Take care of yourself and your baby, and never push him away from you, no matter what happens, so you won't be like me, unwanted by anyone." Erica's heart snapped, and tears came to her eyes. She hugged the old woman and whispered, "Mrs. Mans, can I visit you?" The woman only waved her hand. "Go away. Never mind, you have your own worries." Mrs. Mans began to take out a worn purse to pay, but Erica waved her hands and said, No, put it away. I will not take money from you. Good day to you." She quickly got into the car and drove away, not wanting to hurt her soul even more. That evening, after a quick snack and a shower, the girl finally stretched out her swollen legs and hoped to sleep, but she couldn't. Before her eyes stood the unhappy Mrs. Mans, waving goodbye to her. Lord, how pitiful, Erica thought as tears came to her eyes. A pleasant, intelligent woman, and she was left all alone. What kind of daughter has completely forgotten her mother? Incomprehensible. Erica closed her eyes and began to go over the fragments of her unhappy childhood. Her mother had died very early, but the period spent with her was the best of her life. Her mother's name was Cindy, and she worked as a cleaner in a roadside cafe. She was always exhausted to the limit. In addition, the hated stepfather significantly poisoned their lives. Tom drank, debauched, called Erica an alien brat, and beat her mercilessly. Her mother felt sorry for the girl and tried to protect her. The house was always tense with an agitated atmosphere. Cindy would secretly buy Erica sweets and toys, hiding them from her husband. Erica often begged her mother, "Mommy, let's leave him please. He's bad. He doesn't love us. I'm afraid of him. Why do we live with him?" The tormented woman would only cry quietly and stroke her daughter's head. "I know, my daughter, that Tom is not good, but we have nowhere to go. This is his home. Your mom is unlucky. I got involved with a scoundrel, and everything went wrong. So you'll have to put up with it. We can't go anywhere." Then, unexpectedly, her mom died from a heart attack while at work. Her stepfather buried her, and his little stepdaughter became a thorn in his side. Erica tried to stay out of his sight, sometimes quietly hiding under the bed to avoid being noticed by her drunken stepfather. Her life became unbearable as he continuously oppressed and abused her, calling her a sponger and a freeloader. Normal sleep and studying were out of the question. She often sought refuge with the neighbors from the tyrant until they finally called the guardianship service. Erica was immediately taken to an orphanage, and her stepfather was glad to be rid of her. In the orphanage, Erica had to fight to stand up for herself and was repeatedly punished for it. Over the years, she became a tough girl who loved cars and would confidently race on an old moped that the janitor, Mr. Collins, sometimes allowed her to use. The boys respected her, considered her a good friend, and taught her how to understand spare parts and rebuild engines. Her appearance matched her character: a short haircut, sneakers, and a leather jacket. Nevertheless, Erica's face was beautiful, with deep brown eyes, plump lips, and dimples on her cheeks. Her smile was charismatic, and many guys admired this brave and courageous girl who could easily change spark plugs and rebuild a carburetor. When the educators informed Erica that her stepfather had died in a drunken rage, she didn't feel a fraction of sympathy for him. She even rejoiced that he was no longer on earth. After all, if not for his terrible attitude towards her mother, perhaps she would still be alive. Her mother had been constantly on edge, and no heart could withstand such stress. After graduating from the orphanage, Erica was assigned a cramped, tiny apartment in an old building. At first, she was very upset by the state of the apartment. The sight was appalling: holes in the walls, hordes of cockroaches, shabby wallpaper, and broken chairs. However, it was not in Erica's character to give up. Instead of sitting idly by, she called on her friends, and they worked together to fix it up. Erica plastered the walls, filled the holes with putty, and pasted fresh wallpaper. Soon, it became bearable to live there. Determined to improve her situation, Erica passed her driver's license exams on the first try. With her new license in hand, she set out to look for a job. It was difficult for her as a girl without driving experience. No one wanted to hire her. Finally, she was lucky enough to get a job as a driver forwarder for a small company. The woman owner cheerfully winked at her and said, "There is no such thing on earth that women can't handle." Erica turned out to be an excellent driver, always keeping the car in good working order. Customers were satisfied, but the salary was not enough. So, Erica decided to try her hand as a cab driver. Among the driving community, there was a rumor that cab drivers earned good money and tips, but it was also hard work that not everyone could handle. At first, Mr. Robbins, the owner of the taxi park, laughed at the short, daring girl with a cropped haircut. He said, "Now, I'll give you a little exam. If you pass, I'll take you on. If not, don't be sorry." He made an improvised obstacle course for her with other cab drivers, laying out old tires on the road in the form of a snake, and opening a narrow garage. The satisfied owner commanded, "3 laps on this route, then turn around and drive backward into the garage. You've got 5 minutes to do it all. Keep in mind, the transmission is manual. Your time starts now." Half of the taxi park gathered around to watch this spectacle. Every second driver thought to himself, "Yes, I would hardly cope. The path is too tricky, and it's difficult to go into the garage without proper skill. There are only a couple of centimeters on the sides." However, Erica surprised them all by passing the exam with flying colors. The cab drivers thought she would be confused and unable to pass the test, but that was not the case. Erica easily jumped into an old Ford, smiled, and completed the task without a single mistake. She impressed all the men. Even Mr. Robbins opened his mouth and scratched the back of his head. "Well done. A deal is a deal. I'll hire you, but beware. There are few new cars. As a trainee, I'll assign you a fairly old one. You can drive it as you wish, but you'll be responsible for any repairs. My drivers get under the hood themselves. There's a car mechanic on duty, but he can't cover all of them. All right, I'll see you at 8 for your shift on Monday, but I don't think you'll last long. We've never had women here before." At first, the men coaxed the dispatcher into giving Erica the most problematic orders, such as transporting drunken people or dealing with nervous, hysterical ladies who were impossible to negotiate with. She could also be sent to the suburbs at night. Everyone was waiting for this stubborn girl to give up, break down, and leave the cab service. But all in vain. Erica did not complain about anything. Moreover, it was obvious that this work brought her pleasure. The old car often failed, but the breakdowns did not stop Erica. She would always roll up her sleeves like a mechanic and dig under the hood, often staying at work much longer than she should. As a result, she gained the respect of her colleagues. They tried to help and support her, and if they made jokes, it was in a kind, friendly manner, without any malicious intent. Erica worked as a cab driver for 3 years without tiring. 6 months ago, her friends decided to make her a special birthday present and invited her to a bikers meeting, knowing she would be delighted. This was better than any other gift for her. She was fascinated by the show. Powerful motorcycles, rugged men with thick beards in leather jackets and black jeans, looking like real Vikings. It was there that she met Gregor, who was also among the invited spectators. The young people quickly found common ground and became friends. Erica immediately liked Gregor, a strong, muscular, confident man who was a volleyball coach with a passion for motorcycles. Gregor was immediately drawn to Erica, especially when she confidently made a couple of laps on a bike. Their friendship quickly blossomed into a passionate romance. Erica wasn't initially bothered that Gregor didn't offer her anything serious. They just loved each other and enjoyed life to the fullest. They would rent a motorcycle and ride around the city all night, feeling the wind in their faces. Erica loved freedom, speed, and extremes. In those moments, adrenaline surged and happiness seemed within reach. They loved each other fiercely, and each time felt like the last. Everything burst like a soap bubble when Erica realized she was pregnant. Gregor didn't swear or shout. He just shamefully disappeared, stopped answering her calls, and pretended not to know her when they met. He quickly found a replacement for Erica, a rich girl. Erica saw with her own eyes how her ex-lover was kissing another woman in front of everyone, and it became clear that everything was over between them. Erica was so bitter, hurt, and scared that she even considered doing something rash. She recalled her joyless childhood and how her mother couldn't manage alone. She realized she had nowhere to turn for help, so why start down this path and condemn the child to a life of agony? Erica even went to the clinic and signed up for a termination, but the day before, an incredible event forced her to change her mind. Erica was giving a ride to a passenger who, judging by her colorful scarf and long dress, appeared to be a gypsy. As the woman was getting out of the car, she touched Erica's palm and looked intently into her eyes. "Everything will be all right, my dear. Don't be sad. A son will be born, and then a daughter. You won't have to wait long. Your happiness is already on your doorstep." The woman left the car, and Erica sat there, frozen, as if she were a statue. It cannot be said that Erica unconditionally believed the gypsy woman. She wasn't that type of person. However, she decided not to go to the clinic and chose to keep the child. She resolved to raise the baby on her own, without any scoundrels like Gregor or, even worse, nasty stepfathers. After making this decision, she felt much better. She now had a clear goal: to earn as much money as possible so she could take time off to care for her child until he could go to daycare. She worked hard and didn't spare herself. Though she had no morning sickness, her back often ached, and her legs swelled a little from sitting for long periods. Mrs. Mans also occupied her thoughts. One day, Erica thought, "I should visit her. It won't cost me anything, and it will be nice for the elderly woman. She must be sad and lonely there." Understanding better than anyone how bad it could be in such places, even if they fed and clothed her, Erica took an hour out of her schedule the next day. She bought a nice bouquet of flowers and some fruit and went to see the old woman. Mrs. Mans was so happy to see her that she burst into tears. She hugged Erica as if she were her own granddaughter and said, "Thank you, Erica. You have a kind heart. You didn't forget the old woman. It's so sad here. Everything's so strange. At home, the walls healed me, but here it's a pity. I have no health left at all. I can't eat properly, my hands shake, and I spill everything on myself." They chatted a little, and then Erica went back to work. But the happy Mrs. Mans did not let go of the bouquet of flowers until nightfall, sitting dreamily by the window. From that day on, Erica visited Mrs. Mans almost every day for a little while, and on weekends she stayed with her for half a day. She noticed that it was cold in the ward and brought warm woolen socks and a shawl for Mrs. Mans. The elderly woman was touched by such care and began to call Erica her granddaughter. Every day they grew closer, sitting in the boarding house park for long talks. They often crumbled a loaf and fed the pigeons, who enjoyed their treats. One day, Erica asked the old woman for advice on caring for the baby. Mrs. Mans shared her wisdom and personal life details. "I look at you, Erica, and you remind me so much of Cindy, my daughter. I loved her so much. Who would have thought it would turn out like this? She was smart, studied well, and we had such high hopes for her, my husband and I. Then that ugly foreigner, Arthur, came along, damn him. He made my girl's head spin, and just imagine, he was married. Cindy couldn't resist and went on a wild spree. Soon, as if by bad luck, she got pregnant. When my husband found out, it was such a scandal. He said she disgraced our family and brought shame upon us. That scoundrel denied everything and almost immediately disappeared. He said, 'I don't know anything. It's not my child. Who knows from whom your daughter got pregnant?' Cindy was mostly offended by us for going to him to find out the truth, and she left after him. That's the whole story. I haven't heard a word from her since. Where is she? How does she live? I don't know anything. 100 times we regretted scolding her. We should have accepted her. We could have raised a grandson together and forgotten everything in time. She's not the first, and she won't be the last. So don't even think about regretting the baby. Love him, raise him, and the most important thing is that you're together. When he grows up, there will be someone to give you a glass of water in your old age." 3 months flew by. It was Erica's day off, and she had been in the kitchen since morning. Though she didn't know how to cook, Erica tried to make sure the cutlets wouldn't burn. She wanted to treat Mrs. Mans to something homemade. Suddenly, the phone rang. "Erica Clark, it's from the nursing home. Mrs. Mans gave us your number yesterday. She suddenly felt ill and, unfortunately, passed away during the night. Please accept our condolences. Who will take care of the funeral? Does she have any relatives?" Erica silently hung up the phone, unable to answer. She sobbed and felt a terrible sense of loss, as if she had really lost her grandmother. Without hesitation, she spent the money she had saved for childbirth to give the old woman a proper funeral. Her conscience was clear. Erica was especially touched by the dried flowers from her bouquet, lovingly placed between the pages of Mrs. Mans's prayer book, which was given to her by the nurse. To avoid dwelling on her sorrow, Erica worked day and night until Mr. Robbins practically forced her to go on maternity leave. "Erica Clark, are you completely out of your mind? Or maybe you've decided to give birth right at the workplace. Stop it and go on maternity leave for good. We'll always find a place for you when the baby grows up. We need people like you. So, Erica had to go on maternity leave. The very next day, a notary, a middle-aged man with a folder in his hands, suddenly came to her home. What he told her shocked her. It turned out that Mrs. Mans had left a will, signing over her house to Erica. Along with the will, he handed her a letter. I've been instructed to give this to you personally. Here are the keys and documents. You are now the rightful owner of the house. Congratulations. Excuse me, I have a lot to do. Goodbye. The bewildered Erica sat down in an armchair, opened the letter with shaky hands, and began to read. Dear Erica, it so happens that you have recently become the closest and dearest person to me. You can't even imagine how important and necessary your visits were. It warmed my heart to know that someone needed me. Thank you for your kind heart, your nice presence, and our heartfelt conversations. You warmed my lonely soul, frozen from loneliness and indifference. The least I can do to thank you is to leave you my old house. I hope you will not sell it hastily but restore it and live in it with your child. I would like that very much. The house holds a piece of my soul. One last piece of advice. If you want to heat the fireplace in the fall, take your time and examine it carefully. Goodbye, darling. I wish I could hug you. Take care of yourself and the baby. Sincerely with love, Mrs. Mans. Erica wept quietly, remembering Mrs. Mans's dry hands and eyes full of inexpressible longing. Despite her advanced pregnancy, Erica, who was naturally active, decided to move into Mrs. Mans's house and gradually put it in order. She had nothing to do in the four walls of her tiny apartment, and the baby would benefit from having a yard and fresh air. She took a cab and moved all her belongings to her new home. In truth, Erica was terrified about the future. She didn't have much money, and there were so many expenses ahead. How could she manage? But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't think of a solution. To keep her mind clear of negative thoughts, Erica started a thorough cleaning. She slowly dismantled cabinets and shelves, organizing everything. She found an old gramophone on the mezzanine and a bunch of records, enjoying the works of Bach and Beethoven. It was a new and delightful experience for her. In the old lady's closet, Erica found a gorgeous turquoise lace dress and guessed it had belonged to Mrs. Mans's daughter, who had disappeared. Mrs. Mans must have cherished it all her life as a reminder of her lost child. The house turned out to be quite spacious and filled with an antique charm. It was clear that Mrs. Mans's husband had a talent for design and craftsmanship. Everything was done with quality and care, needing only minor restoration despite the house's age. Erica decided to convert one of the rooms into a nursery and began renovating it. Paul, one of the cab drivers from Erica's work, offered to help. They had recently become good friends. Paul had been divorced for a year, his wife having left him for another man, so he never hurried home. They often repaired cars together or just talked. Now, helping with the repairs, Paul watched Erica deftly hang wallpaper while climbing a stepladder and supervising the process. She was amusingly dressed in a kerchief and a striped blouse, her belly sticking out like a small watermelon. Paul sincerely admired this restless and active woman. Erica, I'm amazed at you. Where do you get all this energy? My ex-wife used to get tired just doing the dishes, but you're like an airplane running around the house, repairing, and you're pregnant. In reality, Paul had been in love with Erica for a long time, ever since he first saw this daring young beauty confidently driving an old Ford during her driving test. He admired everything about her, her boldness, straightforwardness, diligence, and charisma. However, he never dared to confess his feelings, especially after learning that Erica was pregnant and her boyfriend had left her. He didn't want to intrude on her emotions during such a challenging time, knowing she wouldn't understand. So he chose to be there for her as a supportive friend and let time reveal what might happen between them. Meanwhile, Erica remained oblivious to Paul's intense feelings, focused solely on her tasks and her impending motherhood. As days passed and the weather grew colder, Erica decided one day to create a fireplace. Paul, could you bring a couple of piles of firewood? Let's try to light it up before winter arrives. I should probably call a chimney sweep if there are any problems, Erica suggested. While Paul gathered wood outside, An impatient Erica couldn't sit still. Despite her large belly, she climbed inside the fireplace with a flashlight to inspect it for signs of deterioration. Suddenly, her hands grasped onto something, causing her to tumble backward along with a cloud of dust and soot, prompting a fit of sneezes. Her curiosity piqued, Erica quickly unwrapped the mysterious package she had found, a box. Opening it, she gasped in astonishment. Inside were various pieces of jewelry, gold chains, bracelets, gemstones, and even gold coins. Oh my goodness, there's a fortune here. This must be a gift from Mrs. Mans. So that's what she meant in her letter about the fireplace, Erica exclaimed, berating herself for almost forgetting about it. At the very bottom of the box, wrapped in cellophane, were old black and white photographs. Erica carefully examined them. There was Mrs. Mans, and beside her, presumably her husband. Another photograph revealed a younger woman, Cindy, labeled as Mrs. Mans's daughter. But that's my mother. I remember her well. How can this be? There's only one explanation. Mrs. Mans is my grandmother, and I'm her granddaughter. My mother, Cindy, whom she spoke of with such warmth. Erica realized in disbelief. Just then, Paul entered the room. Erica sat on the threshold of the house, frozen in disbelief. She was covered in grime, sitting on the cold floor, tears streaming down her face. Clutched tightly in her hands were some old photographs, and beside her lay a jewelry box. Paul rushed over, alarmed and bewildered, shaking her gently, trying to snap her out of it. Erica, did you fall? Why did you go up there alone? You're restless. I would have helped you. You can't sit in the cold like this. What's wrong? Where did you get all this stuff? Paul asked urgently, concern etched on his face. But Erica remained oblivious, whispering softly, Mommy, that's my mommy. Do you understand? Mrs. Mans, who I cared for before she passed, turned out to be my grandmother. I just found out. Paul was taken aback, unsure of what to make of Erica's emotional state. He had never seen her like this before. Wondering if she might be delirious from hitting her head or if it was a symptom of pregnancy, he fetched a glass of water from the kitchen and gently handed it to her. Here, drink this. Calm down and tell me everything. Are you okay? Otherwise, I'll think you've gone crazy, Paul said, attempting to soothe her. Finally, after a few moments, Erica composed herself enough to recount the entire story to Paul, from beginning to end. Paul listened intently, his surprise growing with each revelation. What a plot! This could be a TV series, he exclaimed softly. Wow, Erica, so you're a rich heiress now. Congratulations. What are you going to do with all that money? Will you sell the house? Erica shook her head firmly. No way. This is my family nest now. My roots are here. My grandparents lived here, and my mom grew up here. Besides, my grandfather built this house with his own hands, pouring his heart and soul into it. I want to restore everything and keep it true to its original design. And what about the money? Paul asked, curious. I'll donate some to the nursing home. They really do a good deed there, helping the elderly in their final days. They need more funding, I saw it firsthand, Erica replied thoughtfully. And I dream of buying a new car. Plus, I need to save up for the childbirth. My head is spinning with all of this. I haven't quite processed it all yet. Suddenly, Paul looked at Erica with a serious expression. You know, Erica, marry me. I've loved you for a long time. We'll raise your son together and live like everyone else. Erica looked at Paul, her heart swelling with gratitude and affection. She smiled through her tears, feeling a sense of warmth and security she hadn't known in a long time. Erica found herself alone after her divorce, without family, spending her days either driving or in the solitude of her empty apartment. The weight of her circumstances pressed heavily on her, leaving her restless and isolated. Suddenly, a thought struck her, and she turned to Paul, exclaiming, Paul, this is serious. I'm carrying someone else's child, not yours. Are you sure you can accept and love him as your own? Paul looked taken aback but nodded slowly, Yes, Erica, I can. I want to be there for you and your child. That's the thing, Erica continued, her voice tinged with bitterness. Do you know how I grew up? Let me tell you, I was beaten and abused so badly by my stepfather that I was taken away and placed in an orphanage. He never saw me as anything but a little brat. When I heard he died in a drunken fire, I didn't shed a tear for him." Paul listened quietly, his heart going out to Erica. "I'm so sorry," he murmured. "But I won't let my child go through that kind of childhood," Erica declared fiercely. "And let me make this clear, I'm not my mom. I'll protect my child from anyone who tries to harm him, no matter what." She paused, her anger palpable. "I thought I'd have to live alone for the rest of my life. Let's end this conversation. Or do you want to propose to me out of the blue because of me? I don't understand what your angle is." Paul was deeply hurt by her words, his face paling. "Why are you judging everyone by one person's actions?" he pleaded. "Can't you see how hard I'm trying to show you that I love you? My feelings have nothing to do with your money." Erica stood firm, her resolve unyielding. "What are you talking about?" she retorted. "If you don't like me, just say so. You've turned me into a sadist and a greedy demon. You can leave now. Thank you for your help. Have a good day." Paul was stunned, his eyes wide with hurt and disbelief. "Have a nice day," he replied tersely, before storming out. They parted bitterly, shattered by the sudden turn of events. Only an hour ago they had been peacefully working together, gluing wallpaper and sharing dreams. Exhausted, Erica sank onto the sofa, feeling the weight of her decisions. "Well, let him go. We'll manage on our own, won't we, Sonny?" she murmured to her unborn child. "We don't need anyone. These men are nothing but trouble." She gently stroked her stomach, finding solace in the life growing within her. Sorting through the old photographs she'd found in the fireplace, Erica marveled at her mother's youth and happiness in the pictures. "Why did you leave such great parents forever, Mommy?" she wondered aloud, studying the images. Grandfather looked so stern and serious. It's clear there wasn't much fun with him. Clutching the precious photographs close, Erica felt a sense of connection to her family's past. They were fragments of her history, pieces she cherished deeply. A couple of days later, Erica actively set about fulfilling her dreams, deeply grateful to her grandmother for the generous gift. She transferred a substantial sum to the nursing home's account and purchased a new car. Hiring specialists, they began restoring and repairing the house according to her personal designs. However, as her due date approached, focusing became increasingly challenging. Clumsiness set in, mornings grew tougher, and no matter her task, thoughts of Paul persisted. She regretted her harsh treatment, realizing he had helped her immensely. Deep down, she harbored feelings for him, though past traumas had fortified a wall around her heart, shielding against betrayal. Meanwhile, Paul missed Erica dearly. Her bold, self-sufficient spirit had captivated him. He acknowledged her reasons and his mistimed advances. Embracing another's child posed complexities, yet he resolved to love and care for the baby. Despite his frustrations, his heart yearned for her, especially with the impending birth and Erica alone at home. One day, while Paul tinkered with a car in the garage, he overheard fellow drivers chatting nearby. "Hey, did you hear? Erica had her baby yesterday," a boy one said. "Mr. Robbins got the news from a friend. We should all get together and congratulate her properly. She deserves it." Paul's heart raced. Without a second thought, he tossed aside his tools, hurried to clean up, and dashed to the maternity hospital. En route, he wrestled with his pride. "To hell with this stupid pride," he muttered to himself, clutching a bouquet of roses and assorted goodies tightly. Paul resolved to declare his love again, determined to congratulate Erica regardless of the outcome. Waiting anxiously in the lobby, he wondered why they delayed letting him see her. After persistent persuasion, he convinced the nurse to grant him a brief visit. Inside the ward, Erica, preparing to feed, was surprised by the nurse's hushed announcement. "Your husband is quite insistent. I managed to secure a quick visit, but just a couple of minutes, okay?" Erica's heart fluttered as Paul burst in, swept her up in his arms, and kissed her tenderly. He presented her with a bouquet and a bag of fruit, then blurted out his heartfelt proposal. "Congratulations, Erica. Now you won't get rid of me. Marry me. I promise to love your child as my own. I can't live without you, even if you can't cook pancakes or cutlets." Erica chuckled, touched by his sincerity. "You're something else, Paul," she replied. "But yes, I agree. And please forgive me for my harsh words earlier. It's not you, it's just hard for me to trust again." Paul beamed with joy. "Wait, what shall we name our son? He'll carry my surname. You and he are mine, that's it." Despite being blessed with sons named Joshua and Ethan, they became overly attached to Susan, who had filled their heads with falsehoods, leading them to neglect their parents. Sometime after Susan, Joshua, and Ethan were kicked out of the house, George passed away suddenly. When I informed Joshua over the phone, his response was unbelievable. "Your dad passed away. Leave the funeral stuff to you, Mom. I don't want to see the face of someone who kicked us out. Yeah, and we're having a great time here, so don't bother us. Just tell the relatives we can't make it because of work or something." I was dumbfounded. A week after the funeral, I received a letter from George addressed to me. When I opened it, it read, "Please read this without our sons finding out." As I read on, I was overwhelmed with emotion. Susan had trampled over our family life with dirty shoes, and Joshua and Ethan refused to attend their father's funeral. I won't let it end like this. My name is Alice, a 54-year-old housewife and full-time employee. I met George at a welcoming party for new employees at our associated companies. Despite being a light drinker, I couldn't refuse the alcohol offered to me and ended up feeling sick from drinking too much. As I shrank into a corner seat, looking for a chance to leave, George noticed me, struck up a conversation, and arranged a taxi for me. Later, I took a day off to thank him at his office. He was surprised to see me during his break. "Coming all this way just to say thanks. You're really conscientious." We became friends, started dating, and eventually got married. Both of us, George, who grew up in a complex environment, and I, who lost my parents as a child, longed for a warm family. We were sure that we could be happy together, but living together brought unexpected turmoil due to George's sister, Susan. Before the wedding, I tried to greet Susan, but she was too busy to meet, so our first encounter was at the wedding. Since George's parents had passed away, it was a simple ceremony with friends and relatives. Susan stood out in various ways, wearing a pure white dress that emphasized her cleavage at a wedding and sporting heavy makeup like a stage actress. She reeked of perfume. I tried not to show my disgust, but Susan either noticed or didn't like me from the start. She didn't greet me and mocked me. "George, couldn't you find someone better at your workplace? Such a plain Jane as a sister-in-law is embarrassing." "Come on, sis. Well, maybe she suits you, Mr. Super Serious." George looked ready to confront Susan, but a sibling fight on the wedding day seemed like a bad omen. "I'm fine, let's go and prepare." I forced a smile and led George to the staff. That was our terrible first impression, but I didn't think much of it, expecting to meet only at occasional family events. However, the situation soon took a drastic turn. After a short marriage due to her husband's infidelity, Susan unexpectedly moved in with us. My ex left, and I want to move out too. Our parents sold their place when I got married, so I can't go back to my parents. Can I stay at George's place for a while? George was visibly frustrated with Susan's call. "Seriously, why don't you rent an apartment? You got a lot of alimony, right? Just let me stay until I find a nice place. I want to take my time choosing, not settle for some rundown house like you guys." But 20 years old. Really, even if it's got a yard and a garage, I wouldn't want it enough if it's earthquake reinforced and remodeled. Just rent a weekly apartment. Kidding. You're so serious. I'll be there this weekend. My lease is up. In the end, Susan showed up with her stuff and settled in without asking. The main problem was her lack of awareness that she was being taken care of by us. Susan acted like it was her own house, causing George and me considerable distress. Susan would go out every night, sleep in until the afternoon, and then spend the rest of the day lounging on the living room sofa, playing with her phone, or mindlessly watching TV. This routine would continue until she went out again after dinner. I sometimes took a day off and stayed home, so I know this was her daily routine. When I would come home tired in the evening after a full day's work, Susan would ask me in a dissatisfied tone, "Hey, is dinner ready yet? How long till it's done?" In about 30 minutes. That long? Hurry up, will you? She would also make snide remarks about my cleaning, saying things like, "You're not very good at this," or "You're cutting corners." I share the cleaning duties with George. You know he's tired too. As a wife, you should be doing all the household chores. I didn't want to complain to George about Susan and worsen their sibling relationship, but he eventually noticed my growing unhappiness. When George asked and I told him about Susan's behavior, he became furious. "Listen, Susan, don't you dare overstep your boundaries. You're just a guest here." "Oh, I'm just stating the obvious," Susan replied nonchalantly. "And start contributing to the household expenses. I'm still in shock from my husband's cheating. How can I work in this state, and now you want to charge me? You can afford it with the $100,000 alimony you got. You have enough money to buy clothes and go out drinking. I don't need my brother telling me how to spend my money." With Susan acting like this, both George and I were exasperated. My dream of a happy married life had turned into a nightmare because of Susan. George and I had wanted kids soon, but perhaps due to the stress over Susan, it just wasn't happening. We were discussing getting checked when I discovered I was pregnant in our 4th year of marriage. Tears of joy streamed down our faces. George took this opportunity to suggest Susan move out. "Susan, we're going to need more space when the baby comes. Maybe it's time you move to your own place." Susan turned to me and asked, "Alice, what are you going to do about work?" "I plan to return to work after a year of parental leave." "Well, I can look after the baby." "What? No, we're planning to use daycare. Don't you know everywhere around here is full?" After inquiring at the city office and asking other moms at work, I found out that even the non-licensed daycares had over a year's waitlist. "See, I told you so." A few months later, as my belly began to show, Susan smugly said, "I'll take care of the baby until you get a daycare spot. I owe you, and I'll do it for free. It'll be tough on your finances if you quit your job right." After discussing it, George and I reluctantly agreed to let Susan help. Honestly, I was extremely anxious, but surprisingly, Susan took great care of our newborn Joshua. She prepared well by looking up childcare information online, took care of his meals and daily needs, and even took him to parks and community centers. She devoted herself to Joshua. It was evident from how much Joshua adored Susan. Even after our second son, Ethan, was born 2 years later, Susan's dedication didn't change. With George and me busy with work, we were grateful for how much she helped with the kids. But as the boys grew, they started to avoid us more and more openly. Joshua, Ethan, want to go to the amusement park at the end of the month. "We're going with Susan." "How about we go out for a barbecue for Ethan's birthday? You mentioned wanting to go before, right?" "Susan already took us to a fancy barbecue place for my birthday. We're going to a high-end sushi restaurant. Can't wait." George and I felt torn seeing our sons so excited about spending time with Susan. Even after Joshua and Ethan started elementary school, we were grateful to Susan for spending time with them on our workdays, even on weekends. When George and I are home, Joshua and Ethan stick close to Susan. They don't try to talk to us and act like it doesn't matter whether we're there or not, playing games and going out with her. Things got worse as Joshua got older. He would blatantly show his displeasure, ignore us, or even click his tongue when we tried to talk to him. Once, Joshua started eating while playing on his phone, and when I reprimanded him, he glared and snapped at me. "Shut up, old lady." For a moment, I couldn't believe my ears. Man, it would have been great if Susan was our mom. She always gives us money and takes us places. Yeah, totally, being born to parents like ours was a total bust. I was shocked by their words but tried to stay calm as I responded, "Susan doesn't work despite being healthy, doesn't contribute financially, and just spends her ex-husband's alimony." "So what? That's a lifestyle to aspire to," Joshua said, looking dreamy. "But, like, Susan raised us right. Complaining about her seems weird." "Yeah, you guys didn't really want kids, did you?" "What? I know Susan told us you had us just because you had to." "That's not true. George and I have always wanted kids. Susan offered to help until we found childcare." I was desperate in my denial. "I can't believe you'd say that to me." Joshua smirked at my choked voice. You guys are always so annoying, telling us to do homework, saying we play too many games. Yeah, Susan gets it. She says it's fine not to do homework and even stays up with us playing games till dawn. I snapped back, annoyed. Susan has no responsibility for your futures. Your dad and I say these things because we're worried about you, even if it means you'll hate us. Yeah, right. You're just jealous because we're close to Susan. How stupid. Maybe you shouldn't have let her take care of us. I felt like crying. Looking up, I saw George standing in the doorway, his fists trembling. Who do you think you're talking to? Oh, hey Dad. Working late again today? Must be tough. Yeah, for such a measly salary, Joshua added. The boys laughed mockingly, leaving George speechless. Finally, you talk to us, and it's to mock your parents. George, stop being so loud, Susan called out as she came down from her room and appeared in the kitchen, shrugging her shoulders in annoyance. Getting worked up over what kids say is so immature. It's because you spoil them that they're like this, George exploded. I've had enough. Get out now. What? I've been nice to my nephews, and this is the thanks I get. If you're going to stay, then pay your way. Susan puffed up her cheeks. Fine, I'll leave. Happy now. What, Susan, you're really leaving? No way. Susan quickly agreed, went to her room to pack her things in a suitcase, and came down to the entrance. I put my clothes in boxes. I've arranged for movers this weekend. Leave it till then, okay? Susan, are you really going? Yes, take care. She smiled at Joshua and Ethan as they saw her off to the gate, then left. But it was too late to bridge the gap between us and our sons. As teenagers, Joshua and Ethan became more rebellious. Joshua quit his job within a month of starting after high school, and 2 years later, Ethan followed suit, quitting his job after just a few days. They bragged about starting a business together and engaged in dubious deals, spending money from odd jobs in a single night. After a huge fight, George kicked them out of the house. When you get a job, come back. No way, we'll never come back to this place. And so Susan, who had stirred up our family, and the sons she influenced, Joshua and Ethan, left. It was back to just my husband and me. I worried about how Joshua and Ethan were doing, but without the three of them causing chaos, I breathed a sigh of relief. At the end of that year, as I was about to leave work and head home, I received a call from George's colleague. Are you Alice? George collapsed at work. What? He's currently receiving treatment in the ICU at the city hospital. I understand. I'll go there right away. I felt like I was about to panic, but I ordered myself to calm down and drove to the hospital. I identified myself at the IQ reception, waited in the hallway for a while, and then the automatic doors opened. A man in a white coat, presumably a doctor, appeared. As soon as he saw me, he lowered his gaze to the floor. We did our best, but I'm sorry. I was speechless, overwhelmed by shock. I stood there in place, trying to process the news. This morning, I had seen off George as he left for work, just as always. Keep your schedule open for our anniversary next month. Sure, the usual restaurant. I have a surprise planned for this year. It's the same restaurant, though. I never imagined that such a mundane conversation would be our last. It felt like my field of vision suddenly turned completely gray. Am I the only one left living? Is there any meaning to it? As I pondered these ominous thoughts, I decided to contact everyone anyway. I informed Joshua, Ethan, and Susan that George had passed away. I left a voicemail and sent a message. That night, I received a return call from Joshua. Amidst cheerful music and chatter in the background, it seemed like he was having dinner at a restaurant. Joshua, your father has. My voice trembled as I spoke. Joshua replied with a half-laugh, the funeral and stuff. I'll leave it to you, Mom. Someone who kicked us out like that. I don't even want to see his face. Yeah, we're having fun here, so don't bother us. Oh dear, George really made himself unpopular, didn't he? I could hear Susan chuckling in the background. Just tell the relatives we're absent because of work. Say hi to them for us. Wait just a minute. I stood in shock, holding the phone. Are these people really George's sister and sons? Filled with emptiness, I knew I had to proceed with the funeral arrangements. I contacted George's relatives and the funeral home we always used, arranging a family funeral. The sudden farewell felt unreal, and I couldn't shed a tear during the service. However, as normal life resumed, the reality of losing George hit me repeatedly. While preparing dinner, setting up to record a TV drama we used to watch together, making coffee, I'd inadvertently prepare for two or start talking to him, and then realize George was no longer there. I couldn't stop the tears. A week after George's passing, I was watering the flowers in the garden when the mailman's car arrived. I took the mail and went inside. Among the usual junk mail, I found an envelope addressed to me. The distinctive handwriting was unmistakably George's. With a rush of emotion, I opened the envelope. First, it explained why I was receiving this letter. I entrusted an old friend to post this in case I passed away. After a heartfelt message of gratitude for the years we spent together, there was a line that caught my eye. Please read this without our sons finding out. My heart swelled as I continued reading. I felt a warmth in my eyes. Realizing George had seen how much I worried about the kids, I wiped my tears and made a decision. I had to respond to George's feelings. Susan, who had trampled on our family without care, and Joshua and Ethan, who refused to attend their father's funeral. Just you wait. I won't let it end like this. I immediately took action. George's letter said, "There's a package for you in a safety deposit box at the bank near the station. Use the enclosed key to retrieve it. I'll leave the rest to you, Alice." Using the address in the letter, I went to the bank and entered the safety deposit box room beside the ATMs. Nervously, I inserted the card into the slot. After entering the PIN, a square part of the table opened, revealing the safety deposit box George had rented. I used the key to open the box and check its contents. Sure enough, everything George mentioned in his letter was there. I put them in my bag and left the bank. Later, I invited Susan, Joshua, and Ethan to my house. "I want to share George's inheritance with everyone who was important to him," I said. With that excuse, all three of them came eagerly. Without a doubt, the word shameless fit them perfectly, skipping the funeral but wanting the inheritance. How audacious could they be? Susan, who couldn't wait while I was making tea, blushed and started talking. That stinky, low-earning George had an inheritance, huh? Maybe he had hidden assets because he was stingy. Thinking about it, being stingy might not be so bad. I wonder if he transferred his inheritance to some account. Anyway, I'm excited. Then Susan smiled at me. "You did the right thing letting your sister-in-law know." "Well, I suppose." "Mom, stop beating around the bush. His dad's inheritance jewels. Maybe gold bars?" Joshua and Ethan fidgeted eagerly. I forced a smile before saying, "Please listen to this." I placed an IC recorder on the dining table beside George's cell phone. Joshua, Ethan, and Susan looked puzzled. "What's this?" Susan asked, eyeing the recorder. "It's an IC recorder," I said. "You know, the kind used for investigations. I've seen them on TV." Joshua chuckled rudely. "Wait, did Dad have an affair?" His laughter died as I pressed the play button. The phone began to emit Joshua's voice, speaking to a friend. "Yeah, remember that old lady you met at our house? Her name's Susan. She wears so much makeup and clings to me, calling me Joshua dear. It's gross, but she'll hand over money if you flatter her. You know, there's a use for fools and old ladies." Susan's face went from puzzled to furious. She glared at Joshua, who now looked frozen. "What is this?" she demanded. "Joshua, what's going on?" Joshua stammered, "I don't know. Maybe it's a stranger or Dad did a voiceover or something." Susan shouted, "George was too tech illiterate to do something like this." Suddenly, she declared, "I just remembered something I need to do. I'm leaving." As Susan and Joshua argued, Ethan tried to sneak out. Before he could make his escape, I played the second recording. "How much money did you get from Susan?" The recording began. $22,000. "Damn, I only got $5,000, Joshua's voice continued. "What did you do?" "Gave her a bouquet of roses and a high-end bag for her birthday. Maybe I'll give her a fake designer brand she won't notice." Yeah, she's so easy to deceive. Ethan's voice joined in. The recording continued. She lives for being showered with gifts from men, even though she's almost 60. She still thinks she's young, believing every compliment she gets from men at the bar. She's a real easy target. Joshua and Ethan's laughter filled the room as they continued to mock Susan. I stopped the playback, and Ethan, with a forced smile, muttered defensively, "When did Dad record this? And to expose it to Mom after he's gone? That's just mean." "Yeah," Susan said, trying to deflect. "Pretending to be a good guy when he's gone, those are the ones you can't trust." The insults about George continued, making me furious. I was about to speak when Susan shouted, "You dare mock people who raised you since you were kids? Don't mess with me. See, this is what's so annoying about you. You always act like we owe you something." Joshua and Ethan laughed derisively. Susan's face flushed red with anger. "Now it's your turn, Susan," I said, reaching for the IC recorder. Susan's face tensed up as she braced herself. I pressed play and lively music filled the room, mixed with the clinking of glasses and the murmur of conversation. Then Susan's high-pitched voice cut through, clearly audible over the noise. "That's right, I've had my nephews wrapped around my finger since they were little," she said, her tone dripping with satisfaction. "Filled their heads with all sorts of nonsense about their parents. Kids are so easy to manipulate." "Oh, Susan, you're so clever," praised a man's voice. Susan continued proudly, "I'm single and need them to take care of me in my old age. Look at my nephews, they're so handsome, like models or pop stars." The host, now intrigued, responded, "Wow, that's impressive." Susan's voice became more animated. "I dream of them feeding me, taking me on amusement park dates, even changing my diapers in the future. No way am I going into a facility. If I'm going to be looked after, it's going to be by handsome men only. I can't wait." I stopped the playback and looked at Susan, whose gaze was fixed on the floor. Joshua and Ethan watched her intently, their expressions a mix of shock and disbelief. "So both my brother and his wife had some pretty nasty hobbies," I said. "Susan, you've been gallivanting around while I've heard rumors from relatives, and got curious. After all, the alimony from your ex should have run out after 20 years. Yet you remained unemployed, so I hired a private investigator to look into your background. And this is what was recorded." Susan's face grew red with anger. "You think this is funny? It's creepy. I did dot on you and spent my time and money. What's wrong with expecting something in return?" I spread out a bank statement on the table. "Oh, you mean this?" Joshua and Ethan's eyes sparkled with interest as they saw the document. "Is this finally the inheritance?" "Well, sort of," I said, making a pointed glance at Susan, who was visibly sweating and desperately searching for an escape route. Her face betrayed a clear desire to flee. I turned to Joshua and Ethan. "Remember what I told you about George cutting ties with his father before we got married?" "Yeah, I remember," Joshua said, nodding. "Our grandfather, Dad's father, didn't work seriously despite being wealthy. He relied on the family fortune and accumulated a huge debt. George's mother worked herself to death paying off those debts, right, Susan?" Susan nodded, her discomfort evident. "Yes, that's right. I cut ties with him too after I became an adult, although I did attend his funeral. So after that," I continued, "the inheritance George received from wealthy relatives was kept a secret. He deposited it into an account for you three." "We never heard about this," Joshua said, his interest piqued. "If there was money, why didn't he tell us?" "He planned to tell you once you started working seriously," I explained. "But before that could happen, someone used the money without permission." Joshua and Ethan turned their gazes to Susan. "No way," they said in unison. "Yes, Susan had been using George's bank book and seal without permission, withdrawing money," I revealed. The bank book showed a balance drop from $200,000 to $10 in just 1 year. Joshua and Ethan stared at it in disbelief. "What did you spend it on?" Joshua demanded. "Well, this guy convinced me there was a great investment opportunity," Susan replied defensively. "I thought I could double it and pay it back. I just borrowed it." Joshua and Ethan erupted in anger. "Don't joke about it," Joshua shouted. "That was supposed to be our money. Just $200,000 and you're making a fuss. Susan retorted defiantly, considering all the effort I put into raising you, you should be giving it to me for free. Joshua and Ethan's faces flushed with rage, veins popping on their foreheads. But that's not all, Susan, I said, sighing as I spread Joshua and Ethan's bank books on the table. You both started working right after high school, so the college funds were left untouched. I was going to give it to you once you started working seriously, but this turd has been tampered with. Seeing only pennies left in their accounts, Joshua tore at his hair in frustration, and Ethan's eyes welled up with tears. Damn it, woman, what you're doing is criminal. Yeah, we'll sue you, Ethan added. Don't be silly, Susan said with a smirk. It's called family theft and doesn't count as a crime when done by a relative. I crossed my arms and glared at Susan. I've already called the police. Susan's eyes widened in shock. Huh? But relatives living together can't be charged for crimes. That's why George kicked you out. He was planning to report you, I said coldly. Susan stared at me in disbelief. You betrayed your husband's sister. Yes, that's what happened, I replied firmly. Unbelievable after all I've done for you. Susan's protest was cut short by my angry outburst. Who's ungrateful here? I shouted, silencing the room. I fixed my gaze on Susan, letting my frustration spill out. Look at what you've done. Our family is in ruins beyond repair. What do you plan to do about it? Susan, with a casual shrug, replied, I should have never trusted Ed and let you stay. I should have kicked you out sooner. Turning to Joshua and Ethan, she wore a malicious grin. I wanted to be a mother, but since I couldn't, I decided to take your mom away from you out of spite. Joshua and Ethan looked on in horror. Are you out of your mind? Just stay away from us, I demanded. Susan's smirk widened. Actually, I came here to borrow money. We're family, right? We should help each other in tough times. Joshua and Ethan, who had been seething moments earlier, suddenly adopted fake smiles. We're broke too. Got fired for talking back at work and taking an unscheduled break. Now we're out of our apartment and need to stay here for a while, Joshua said nonchalantly. Can you lend us $40,000? We'll pay you back once we're out of debt. Their audacity made my blood boil. Don't joke around. I have nothing to give to the heartless sons who skipped their father's funeral. Despite my refusal, they persisted. Please, Mom, if you don't help us, we'll report you to the police. Just then, a police siren blared outside. Susan, panicking, stumbled into the officers at the door and was quietly escorted away. Are we going to get arrested too? Joshua asked in a panic. Let's just leave, Ethan said, glancing at me with resignation. They abandoned their pleas for money and left. Joshua and Ethan soon realized that the funds Susan had given them were actually from George and their own savings. They had lost all respect for Susan. I don't want to end up like them, they said, trying to convince themselves to work harder. But their laziness didn't vanish overnight, and they continued to bombard me with requests for money. Mom, I need money for bar payments, one would say. I blew my money on horse racing. Can you lend me $100,000? Frustrated, I blocked their contact information. They sought help from other relatives but were shunned and condemned for missing their father's funeral. This led to further estrangement and debt collectors pursuing them. As Joshua and Ethan woke up to reality and started working diligently, their debts had already accumulated too much. They were banned from their favorite nightclubs and bars, losing all the enjoyment in their lives. They lamented their misfortune. Susan, a first-time offender, paid a fine and was soon released. However, the scandal led to her being dumped by her boyfriend. After repaying the embezzled money from George's accounts, she was left with significant debt. Now, she works from dawn till dusk, visibly exhausted. What I kept hidden from Susan and my sons was that George had left another item in the safe, a large pink diamond necklace, a prestigious heirloom passed down from his mother. George had intended it as a gift for our 30th wedding anniversary next year. Fearing it might be found and sold, he had kept it securely stored. Valued at $240,000, it was a treasured gift from George. Though I long for a warm family, things didn't work out with my sons, and I lost my husband. Yet George's memory lives on in my heart. Moving forward, I want to live strong, cherishing the memories of George.